Hello and greetings, everyone. I'm Pastor Edwin Strickland, and I serve as the Senior Pastor of Fellowship of Champions Church International, a worldwide ministry helping people to learn to live out their God-given dreams by walking in love and living by faith. And I get to be your host and your guide for this exciting journey that we're about to take that we call Ed Talk with Pastor Strick. Hello. Welcome back. Happy Tuesday. Happy noontime, or wherever it is, the time that you're watching this. I am so glad that you have decided to tune in. Welcome to another edition of Ed Talk with Pastor Strick. I am your host, Pastor Strick, and this is season 3, episode 4. And I get to be your host on what I believe is one of the most important topics that we're going to get to talk about probably in this season. Today here on Ed Talk with Pastor Strick, on this podcast, we're going to do a deep dive into the heart of building better resiliency. Listen, I love talking about resiliency because research has demonstrated that resilience is what makes us stronger. It's what makes us more adaptable. And ultimately, resiliency is what makes us more successful in life in face of all of its challenges. And I have been so excited to finally get to this stage in our Build Better series. Listen, we've been talking about building better focus. We've been talking about building better habits. We talked 2 weeks about building better swagger. And this week, we're going to talk about how to build better resiliency. Why? Because we want to develop the skill that allows us to be successful in life. And I'm so excited that I get to do that with you today. So listen, you know what I need you to do? I need you to help me out with some social media outreach. I need you to tag your friends, tag your family. I need you to share this to your page, share this to your story. Let everybody know that building better resiliency is live right now. And they need to get in here and they need to hear about it, because one thing for sure, life is going to life. And we've got to learn how to manage life so that life doesn't overtake us. So life doesn't beat us down. So life doesn't make us want to give up and cave in and quit and fall back. No, we're going to develop the skill. And I keep using that word because skill is something that can be learned. We're going to learn the skill of how to employ resiliency. See, during our time together, what we're going to do today is we're going to explore the multifaceted world of resiliency. Why? Because in a world that is constantly testing our limits, and how many know this world can absolutely test our limits? In a world that's always testing us and pushing us further sometimes than we're wanting to go, understanding and building our resiliency isn't just something that's going to be beneficial. It is absolutely essential. So you can have better habits. You can have better focus. You can even have better swag and show up as your authentic self. But if you don't learn to bounce back from life's blows, then you're never going to make your dreams. You're never going to achieve your goals. You're never going to reach your destiny. And here at Ed Talk with Pastor Strick, that's what we're all about teaching us the skills necessary so that we can live out everything that God has placed in our hearts to be. We don't want life to stop us. We don't want to shrink back because of problems and disappointments. We want to learn how to power through. And so you know what I ask you guys to do every time we go live? I ask you to help me out with some social media outreach, and then I point you in the direction of my social media. Why? Because we are almost at the 300 subscriber mark, and I need your help. If you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, I need you to go to www.pastorstrick.com. It's a very simple website. Just go to pastorstrick.com. It's going to take you directly to my homepage on YouTube. Once you get there, just click that subscribe button. That's all you have to do. I am looking for another, I think it's 81 people to join me. so that we can reach our 300 subscriber mark. And I think we can do that this week. I'll be putting out a couple of posts asking some of my other friends who haven't subscribed yet to please do that. So if you're listening, if you're watching and you haven't subscribed, even if you don't like listening to it on YouTube, that's fine. I just need you to go there and subscribe to it so that way I can get those numbers up. If you like to listen to Ed Talk with Pastor Strick via podcast, that's fine too. All you have to do is go to www.pastorstrickpodcast.com. If you go to pastorstrickpodcast.com, it will take you to a landing page and you can pick your favorite platform for how you want to listen and engage with Ed Talk. Again, if you missed learning how to build better habits, if you missed learning how to build better focus, if you missed learning how to build better swagger, either week 1 or week 2, you can go back and you can listen to those podcasts. You can listen to the audio, or you can listen to the video version. Whichever version you like, you can go back and you can engage with those podcasts, because every one of those podcasts are designed to help give you tools and strategies to be the best you can possibly be. Now, today we're going to be talking about building better resiliency, developing the resilience you need to succeed. And all of us need resiliency in order to succeed. Okay. So here's the question. What exactly is resilience? What is resilience, or what is resiliency? At its core, resilience is our ability to withstand adversity and to bounce back from difficult life events. That's what resiliency is. It is our ability to withstand adversity, but to also be able to bounce back when difficult things happen in our life. When I think about resiliency, I tell people all the time, think of it in this way. Think of resiliency as a muscle. When you think about a muscle, even if it's your abs or if it's your biceps, whatever muscle you think about, that muscle gets stronger because you work it out. Just as physical strength, right, allows our bodies to recover and to thrive after strain, then resilience empowers our mind and our souls, okay, to overcome any obstacle that we may face. It helps us to learn from what we've been through and then to emerge stronger than ever before. So why is resiliency so important? Well, first of all, it's a common misconception that resiliency is purely innate. Resiliency is not just innate. In other words, it's not just something that some people are born with and other people aren't. It's not this idea that if you're not resilient, you can't become resilient. It's not an innate quality, but it is a skill. And because it is a skill, it's encouraging because that means it can be learned. And if it can be learned, then that means it can be mastered. See, resiliency is something that can be developed in all of us. It can be nurtured. It can even be strengthened over time, just like any other skill or attribute. That's why here at our church, Fellowship of Champions, we say as part of our motto that we are a skill-based ministry. Why are we a skilled-based ministry? Because we believe in teaching people at our ministry how to walk in love, how to live by faith, so they can experience God's prosperity in every area of their life. Here on Ed Talk, what I like to do is I like to take this to the professional and secular part of the world and say, we come to teach you how to live an amazing life. That's what this Build Better series is all about. Teaching you how to have better focus, teaching you how to have better habits, teaching you how to have better swagger and show up authentically as who you really are rather than some facade of who you are. And then today we're talking about how to bounce back when life sucker punch you. And how many of you know that at some point in your life, something unexpected is going to happen? Something's going to happen in your life that's going to cause you to be like, whoa, wait a minute, I did not see that coming. But we want to give you the skills and the tools and the tenacity to be able to say, wait, I may have been knocked down, but I have not been knocked out. I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to cave in, and I'm not going to quit. These things happen to me, but what of this situation can I control? What of this situation can I do something with so that I can get back on track to living my best life? That's what resiliency is all about. Now, resiliency is crucial in this demanding world that we live in, because there are so many challenges and setbacks that happen to all of us. The Word of God says that it rains on the just as well as the unjust. In other words, good things happen to bad people and bad things happen to good people sometimes. Everything just happens sometimes that's beyond our control. No matter how much you pray, no matter how much you fast, no matter how much you give, no matter how much you serve, sometimes life is just going to life. But we can have the skills to learn how to dominate life rather than having life dominate us. Understand this. By fostering resilience, what we actually do is we learn to equip ourselves with the tools to navigate these challenges, to adapt to change, and to seize opportunities for growth and success in every area of life. That's what resiliency does for us. It allows us to navigate challenges. It allows us to adapt to change. In other words, it creates in us this growth mindset as opposed to having a fixed mindset. And we talked about that in season 1, that we have to be open to do things differently. We have to be committed to our outcomes, but we have to be flexible in our approach. And then it also allows us to see opportunities where other people see problems, where other people only see despair. Resiliency allows us to see hope. So in today's episode, we're going to begin our journey of building better resiliency. And we're going to do that by uncovering the science behind resilience. I want to share a couple of stories of some remarkable resiliency in action. And then I'm going to offer you some practical advice for developing the crucial skills necessary to build better resiliency. And I keep saying that over and over because I want you to hear that. We're talking about building a skill. So if you say right now, oh, I'm just not a resilient person. Okay, you may not be today, but you can learn to build resiliency. It is a skill. And because it is a skill, it can be taught. And because it can be taught, it can be mastered. So hear me this afternoon or this morning, wherever you may be. Whether you're facing personal or professional hurdles, or whether you're simply seeking to thrive in this complex world that we live in, today's podcast is just what you need. So I need you one more time to go ahead and click the like button. I need you to click that heart button. I need you to go ahead and share it. In fact, if you haven't already, let me know where you're watching from. That's one of the things I typically ask you to do, is to let me know what city you are watching from, what state you are watching from. You can just hashtag the word like live Atlanta, Georgia, or live Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, or live Miami, Florida, or live San Diego, California. Wherever you're watching from, go ahead and just hashtag your city and state. And then also let me know how you're engaging with Ed Talk. Are you engaging with Ed Talk because you happen to be watching this on Facebook? Are you watching this on YouTube? Or are you listening to this on one of my podcast channels? And if so, drop me a message. Let me know. You can go to my Facebook page. I have an Ed Talk Facebook page. If you just go to Ed Talk on Facebook and search, you will find it. And then drop me a message, drop me a comment. Let me know how you are engaging. Which platform? Is it iHeartRadio? Is it Spotify? Is it Apple? Whatever it is, or however it is that you're interacting with Ed Talk, I would love to know. So let's talk about resiliency, okay? One of the things I'm going to always do is we're going to get on the same page by using a definition. So let's define it. Resiliency is defined, and this is what we'll use as for our conversation, the ability to withstand adversity. The ability to withstand adversity and bounce back from difficult life events. That's what resiliency is. It is an ability that we develop over time. It's a skill that we learn and perfect that allows us to withstand adversity and to bounce back from difficult life events. Now, we've said this before. Resiliency is not just an innate thing, right? But it's a skill that can be developed. So even if you say you weren't born with it, it doesn't mean you can't develop it. Why? Because there is a science behind resiliency. And that's what we're going to talk about here for the next few minutes. The science of resiliency. It's a concept that might seem intangible at first, yet it's incredibly powerful when you understand and how resiliency can be applied in your lives. To frame our exploration, I want to just draw really quick on the insights from some of the most resilient individuals that we probably all know out there. If you think about the special forces, whether that's the Navy SEALs or whether that's the Green Berets or any other special operations force in our U.S. military, along with other figures who have demonstrated exceptional resiliency in the face of extreme adversity. When you think about a Navy SEAL, when you think about a Green Beret, when you think about a Ranger, when you think about those people, especially if you watch the movies or if you've heard the stories, you know that these are people who have learned the skill of how to overcome extreme life challenges. For them, especially in times of combat or war. But our discussion today and our background is going to be rooted in the idea of these individuals' extraordinary experiences. Let's think about the U.S. Navy SEALs. If you think about a U.S. Navy SEAL, and I ask you to write down some of the things that they're known for, you would probably write down things like they're known for how rigorous the training process is. We've all seen the movies like G.I. Jane, and we always seen some of the Navy SEAL movies where they're training and people are washing out and they have to go and ring the bell because they didn't make it. Or we've seen people almost at the brink of death because the challenges that they were facing were so grueling that they almost couldn't take it. But we've also heard the stories about their heroic exploits, along with the stories of others who have faced and overcome seemingly insurmountable challenges. In all of those experiences, they paint for us this really rich tapestry of lessons around resiliency, what it means not to give up, what it means not to quit, what it means to see it through, what it means to dig deep and to go beyond what you think you can emotionally, what you think you can sometimes physically, what you think you can sometimes even spiritually, how you fight through and you keep going. What is it about resiliency that affords us the opportunity to do that when other people cave in and quit? And so my research and my observations has come up with what I call these 5 lessons of resiliency. Okay, these five lessons of resiliency, or 5 key factors that, when combined, unlock this incredible personal power that we have in order to overcome all of life's challenges. So let me give you these 5. You can write these down if you're taking notes. I'm going to go through them fairly quickly because we'll come back to a little of them in just a moment. I will note to you that in what you see on your screen, number 2 should be self-regulation, not self-awareness twice. So for those of you that are seeing that on the screen, just note that. For those of you that will be hearing the audio, don't worry about it. I'll fix it in the audio. So these are the 5 key factors that, when combined, unlock an incredible personal power in our lives. Number 1 is this idea of self-awareness. Okay, self-awareness. What is self-awareness? Self-awareness is understanding your own emotions. It's about understanding your own strength, your own weaknesses, and knowing what your triggers are. Resilient people have a clear sense of their own identity and how they relate to the world around them. That's why we spent 2 weeks talking about developing better swagger. You got to get to know who you are. Resilient people are self-aware people. They know and understand their own emotions. They know and understand what their strengths and weaknesses are. And they also understand what their triggers are and how those triggers can negatively impact them if not managed appropriately. People who are resilient are self-aware, because when you are self-aware, it gives you the ability to relate appropriately. I wouldn't even use the word positively, but appropriately to the world around you. Okay. The second thing that you must have if you're going to master this skill of resiliency is you must understand and have self-regulation. Self-regulation. What is self-regulation? This is about managing your emotions. It's one thing to be aware of them, it's another thing to manage them. So self-awareness is about understanding your emotions. It's about understanding your strengths and weaknesses. It's about knowing what your triggers are. But then the second part of that is self-regulation, which is about managing your emotions and managing your impulses. When you are triggered, most people don't do a really good job of self-regulation because most people aren't aware of their triggers. They get triggered and then they respond. But once you are aware of what those triggers are when they happen, it gives you a moment to do what I call hit the pause button. Sometimes you just got to hit that pause button in your mind. You got to hit that pause button in your soul. You have to learn to self-regulate. Why? Because when you self-regulate, it is the ability to stay calm under pressure. It is the ability to stay calm under pressure. It is about thinking before you act and maintaining a level of self-discipline in the challenging situations you find yourself. So number one, you must be self-aware. Number two, you must learn how to practice self-regulation. Number three, you must learn to fill up your optimism tank. You must learn to fill your optimism tank. You must become an optimist. And this is coming to you from a person who probably could honestly say that most of my life I spent in a pessimistic state. And as a result of that, it hindered my ability to make as much progress as I could have had I been more optimistic. Now, when I talk about being optimistic, I'm not talking about being blind. I'm not talking about having your head stuck in the sand so that you don't see anything around you that's wrong or need to be fixed or ways to improve. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about being able to maintain a positive outlook even in the face of adversity. This is a crucial step if you're going to build better resiliency. It's not about ignoring reality. That's not what I'm telling you to do at all. But it's about choosing and learning how to focus on what can be controlled and the potential for positive outcomes. What can you control? There are some things that are just simply beyond our control. And when things are simply beyond our control, if all we do is focus on the negative aspects of not being able to control it, we don't spend the time focusing on the positive things that we do have the ability to control and how we can shape those outcomes. So you must learn to leave the school of pessimism and graduate to the school of optimism. Okay, so you got to be self-aware. You need self-regulation. You got to fuel yourself with optimism. And then number four, you need what I call mental agility. What is mental agility? Mental agility is about being able to think on your feet. Resilient people can think on their feet. They learn to adapt to new information quickly and change their strategies when necessary. This is a hallmark of resilient individuals. They are nimble on their feet cognitively. When something bad happens, when something doesn't go the way they were expecting, they don't get stuck. Resilient people have the mental agility to learn how to modify and adjust. Mental agility involves flexibility in thinking and the ability to see various perspectives, as well as the ability to see opportunities and solutions where other people only see problems and roadblocks. That's why you have to have that mental agility. Because if you see problems and roadblocks like everybody else, if you get stuck in that pessimistic state, if you are not self-aware, if you don't self-regulate, then these are the things that end up derailing you and making you leave your destiny, your dreams, and your desires on the roadside, thinking that they could never happen for you. Why? Because you don't have the resiliency or the skill to develop the resiliency to break through when life is difficult. And then the fifth thing that cannot be undervalued is the strength of relationships. The strength of relationships. Why are relationships important? Because resilient people understand the power of more than one. They understand the power of camaraderie. They understand the power of community. Resilient people build strong, supportive networks. If you're going to be a person who is going to build resiliency, while you do need to be self aware, while you do need to learn how to self regulate, while optimism is so important and developing mental agility is key, you also need other people around you who can support you in times of trouble. You need other people who can encourage you. You are not called to do life alone. There's a new epidemic going around in the United States, and it is the epidemic of loneliness. There's research being done right now that is showing that people are reporting that they are more lonely in this season of life, in this generation that we're in any other time that research has been done. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that we went through a couple of years of this pandemic where people were isolated. But I also think it has a lot to do with social media and people grabbing hold to these mantras about things like no new friends and I don't need nobody and I can do it by myself and this is my kingdom on my social media page and nobody come over here and say anything against me and I don't want to think any differently and all of these other things, and it's making people lonely. But you need strong relationships. Resilient people understand the value of deep connections, and they are not afraid, watch this, to seek help and support from other people. Okay? Resilient people are not afraid to seek help. In fact, you ought to go ahead and type that in the comment section. If you're watching this live on Facebook or YouTube, you should type that in the comment section. I am not afraid to seek support. I am not afraid to seek support. That also means that you should not be afraid to lend support, because the Bible talks about iron sharpening iron. And sometimes you may need to be the person doing the sharpening, but sometimes you may need to be the person who needs to be sharpened. So again, these 5 key factors that must be prevalent if you're going to be a resilient individual is you must be self-aware. You must self-regulate, okay? You need to be aware of your emotions, strengths, weaknesses, and triggers, but you also need to learn how to efficiently manage those emotions, those strengths and weaknesses, and those triggers. Number 3, you got to have this growth mindset that allows you to be much more optimistic than you spend time being pessimistic. You cannot be in a fixed mindset and be resilient. You have to be open to change. You have to be open to new ideas. And in doing that, that's why you have to develop your mental agility. What is your mental agility? Your ability to think on your feet, your ability to see opportunities where people see problems, your ability to synthesize new information and change and be flexible. Even though you are committed to your outcome, you are flexible in your approach. And then number 5, you have to build those deep, strong relationships, because in time, you will not only need to be strengthened, but it will be your time to strengthen others. And so now let's talk about what I call the 5 sequential factors, of personal resiliency. Okay. These are 5 key elements that you need, but let's talk about these 5 sequential factors. And I call them sequential factors because they really do need to go in order. A lot of times when I'm teaching things, I'll say to you that, hey, it doesn't necessarily mean that this is step 1 for everybody, this is step 2, but these are the 5 sequential, meaning in order, factors of personal resilience. Okay. These aren't just abstract concepts. They are actionable qualities that can be cultivated to navigate through life storms more efficiently. I know because I personally used them. I used them professionally. I've used them personally. I used them as a leader, as a pastor. I've used them as a spiritual son. I've used them in many different walks of life, as a father, as a husband. Listen, these things that I'm about to share with you are so critical. They're so critical that if you learn to do them, you will be amazed at which the ease that when things used to have you set back, things used to cause you anxiety and stress and despair, they will not do that anymore. I'm not telling you what I've heard. I am telling you what I've learned and implemented in my life. And that is the reason I'm doing this series about building better, because I believe that just like I learned some really practical things about how to live my life effectively, I believe that you too can do the exact same thing. So let's talk about each of these factors. Let's explore them and let me provide a little insight into how I believe they contribute to a resilient character, the building of a resilient character. And then I'm going to offer you, after we go through this, just some practical advice on how you can develop each of these, and then I'm going to be out your way. Okay? Number one, again, we talked about this when we talked about the 5 factors. We talked about being optimistic. But I want to dive deep into this and talk about this thing called active optimism. Okay? Active optimism is defined as the belief that positive outcomes are achievable through our actions. Now, please understand that this is very different from what a lot of people think about optimism, because they think about what I call passive optimism. And passive optimism is almost like just this general hope. It's a general hope that things will improve without any effort on our part. It's kind of like just saying, I wish things would get better. When I talk about optimism, I'm not just talking about this general idea that I wish or I hope or I dream that things would get better. I'm talking about active optimism, meaning that I believe that things can and will get better, and that I have a part to play, that you have a part to play, that we have some actionable steps that we need to implement that allows for this optimism that I have to be birthed and come to fruition in my life. It is called active optimism. Active optimism engages us in a self-fulfilling prophecy. Why do I say it's a self-fulfilling prophecy? Because our positive expectations actually motivate us to have actions. And then those actions in turn help us achieve the positive expectation and outcomes that we were believing for. So active optimism is a self-fulfilling prophecy. Another way to say this is that I believe that I can lose weight. Okay. Now, it's a great thing just to hope I lose weight one day, but what's my active optimism? I can see myself losing the weight. That active optimism should then motivate me to have an action. What should that action be? It should be a change in my diet. It should be a change in my movement, my exercise routine. It should be a change in my sleep habits and patterns, right? I should be doing things that line up with my optimism, right? Because as I have this positive optimism, it leads me to action. And then those actions actually become a self-fulfilling prophecy, because now I get to see the results of what I was believing for. Building active optimism starts by setting achievable goals and then celebrating your small victories. And we've talked about this many times before, so I won't belabor this point, but you have to celebrate the small victories. It is the thing that keeps your optimism going. You also have to practice gratitude, and you have to maintain what I call a problem-solving attitude towards any challenge that may arise. You have to recognize your control over your responses and your actions, even in situations where you have no control over the outcome. That's that part of mental agility that we just discussed earlier. So if I'm going to make sure that I have some personal resiliency, the very first sequential factor that must be employed in my life is this idea of active optimism. Number two, after I have this optimism that motivates me to move and to act, I then have to make decisive decisions. I have to have decisive action. Decisive action involves taking concrete steps to mitigate, rebound from, or grow after an adversity. Okay? I need decisive action. I can't get punched and just lay down there. I can't get a sucker punch from life and just roll over and in the fetal position and cry and just say, woe is me. I can't do that if I'm going to be a resilient person. If I'm going to be a resilient person, I must have decisive action. Why? Because decisive action emphasizes the importance of decisiveness in effectively dealing with challenges. This factor is closely linked to taking personal responsibility for our actions and their outcomes. When something happens, I have to ask myself the question, is this in my realm of control? Is this in my realm of control? Is there anything I can do to mitigate this situation? Is there anything I can do to rebound from this situation? Is there anything I can learn and grow from because of this situation? If the answer is no, then I move on from that and continue to ask myself about the other things. If the answer is yes, then I'll pause and I'll begin to decipher, okay, what do I have control over? How far does my control reach? What can I do? What's in my realm of influence? What decisions can I take? What concrete steps can I do so that I can mitigate the damage that has been done? When life's against me, is there any part of it I can control? Sometimes the only thing you can control is your mouth. You can't say negative things expecting positive outcomes. Sometimes the only thing you can control is your emotions. That you don't respond or that you don't lash out or that you don't hurt someone with your words or intentions because you were in a bad emotional state. Because I know we say sticks and stones may break our bones, but words will never hurt us. But that's just not true. It's just not true. In fact, there are some words that people never heal from when they would heal from a broken arm or a broken leg. And so we have to make sure that we are making decisive actions. We have to learn to cultivate decisiveness. The way we do this is by enhancing our ability to make decisions, by clearly defining what our goals are. What's my goal? What's my outcome? Because if I know what my goals are, if I know what my outcomes, my desires and dreams are, if I can decipher what those things are, then I can ask myself, is the decision I'm about to make, does that align? Does that align? If it doesn't align, I have to ask myself, then why am I about to do this? It's just going to set me back further from my dreams, from my desires, from my destiny, from my goal attainment, right? And I don't want that to happen. So maybe making this decision is not the best decision, even though I think I would feel good if I did it. I have to make decisive decisions. Sometimes making decisive decisions is about reflecting on your past decisions. How did that work out for you the last time you did that? The last time you responded that way to your boss, what happened? You got fired. You lost your job. You were without a job for 6 months. You got behind on your bills. You lost your car, or almost lost your car. You lost your place to live, or almost lost your place to live. Did that decision serve you? Those are the questions you have to ask yourself. While I'm building this resiliency, I have to make sure I'm not blowing my life up in the process because I'm not self-aware and I'm not using self-regulation. Okay? So I have to have active optimism, the kind of optimism that drives me to act. I have to get comfortable with being a decisive decision maker. There are some things I don't have a long time to study and think about. I have to be able to hear Holy Spirit and then move expeditiously in order to make that decision so that the thing that came against me is not belabored and I have the ability to mitigate the problem before it becomes a long-term issue in my life. And a lot of that is based on the third thing that I want to talk about, which is our moral compass. Someone says, what do you mean by moral compass? A moral compass provides us with our guiding principles for how we navigate challenges. Everybody has a moral compass. That moral compass came because you were either raised with it, you were taught with it, maybe you encountered Holy Spirit, you encountered Jesus Christ, you may have encountered something else that caused you to have your compass to be pointing in the direction that it's pointed. But everybody has a moral compass. But when I'm talking about a moral compass, I'm talking about a moral compass that is pointed toward doing what Christ would do. Okay? It's about staying true also to your values of honesty, to your values of integrity, to your values of fidelity and ethical behavior. Even when it's hard, even when it's hard, your moral compass says do when it's easy to do the wrong thing, when it's easier for me to seek revenge, when it's easier for me to get somebody back. Is that what I do? Resilient people have learned that even though it may feel good in the moment, it doesn't serve them long term. So they allow their moral compass to be their guide as opposed to their emotions. So you got to make sure that you have a moral compass that is aligned to your values and that you know what those values, those core values are to you. This inner compass that we have, all of us have it, it guides our decisions. It guides our actions, and they ensure that we are in alignment with our deepest beliefs. That's why it's so important for you to be self-aware. Because when you are self-aware, you know what you believe deeply, not just what the right thing is to say, but what is the right thing to do, and my ability to do the right thing when the pressure is on. When the pressure is on, everybody can do right when there's no pressure. Everybody can say the right thing when there's no pressure. But the real test of a resilient individual is, can you hold true to who you are, even when all of life's adversity is coming in all around you? And you can do that when you understand what your moral compass is and stick to it. And there are ways in which you can strengthen that moral compass. The way you do that is by making sure that you know and that you have taken the time to define your core values and your core principles. What do you value? What do you believe in? Then you have to reflect on how these values guide your decisions. You have to seek out role models and other people who embody the same values that you have, and then learn from their examples. It's the reason I say all the time, every pastor needs a pastor. Every coach needs a coach. Why? Because you need a mentor. You need someone who can show you the way, someone who you have seen live out the same values that you have, even in times of great adversity, so that you can glean and learn from them, so that when your adversity shows up, you can also pass the test. You also have to regularly evaluate your own actions to ensure that they align with your moral compass. Sometimes you have to ask yourself, why did I do that? Why did I do that? Why did I make that decision? And don't just say, oh, I don't know. Figure out why you don't know. Go through the 5 why analysis until you get to the bottom of why you did what you did, so that you can become cognitively aware of what you're thinking, what your actions are, and what consequences or results will be a result of that thinking and of those actions. And then the other thing you need is you need to have what I call relentless tenacity. Now, relentless tenacity is basically our persistence in the face of setbacks, okay? It's your ability not to be a quitter. It's your ability not to give up, cave in, and quit at every sign of trouble, at every sign of difficulty. It's about learning to push through difficulties. It's about learning to push through hard moments, and to do it with a defiant determination. Meaning, even if other people give up, you don't. Now, let me be very clear when I talk about relentless tenacity. It is also important to recognize the limits of this. Knowing when to pivot or to let go is crucial. I'm not saying that you hang on to something for dear life, even when you see it's not serving you. That's not what I'm talking about. But I am talking about not giving up just because things are hard. I see so many people, both young and old, nowadays, who give up at the first sign of adversity. They don't want to work through anything. They don't want to go through anything. They want everything to be easy. They want everything to be fast. And everything can't be easy, and everything can't be fast. In fact, go ahead and type that in the comment section. Say everything won't be easy, and everything won't be fast. Everything won't be easy, and everything won't be fast. You have to know that. So you're going to have to develop some tenacity. You're going to have some defiant determination, but you also have to have the wisdom and insight. And I always say it like this because I'm a pastor and I'm a Jesus follower. You have to allow Holy Spirit to tell you when to let go. When Holy Spirit tells you to let go, it's okay to let go. But just because it's tough, that's not the time to let go. You have to have some relentless tenacity. And then number 5, you have to have some interpersonal support. What is interpersonal support? Interpersonal support highlights the importance of drawing strength from your relationships. If you remember when I talked about those 5 factors, one of the things I said you had to have is you had to have strength in relationships. Interpersonal support highlights this importance. It's based on the foundation of interpersonal reciprocity. In other words, I help build you up, you help build me up. I help build you up, you help build me up. And it's not a quid pro quo. It's not a tit for tat. It is a legitimacy. I want to see you win. It is a legitimate, you want to see me win. It's a legitimate, I have something I can help you with, and so I'm willing to help you. And then you have something you can help me with that sometime down the road, and you generally help me because you want to see me succeed. We have to understand how important it is as part of our resiliency that we invest time in nurturing meaningful relationships. We must be willing to ask for help when needed and then offer help to others. We must participate in community or group activities that align with our interests, our dreams, our goals, and our desires. We have to also learn, most importantly, how to practice empathy. I think that's one of the things that people are losing nowadays. We have no empathy. And I'm not talking about feeling sorry for someone. I mean, genuinely being able to put yourself in their shoes and see something from their perspective. Because when you can see something from someone else's perspective, maybe the thing they did that irritates you wouldn't irritate you so much. And watch this, maybe the thing you did that irritated them so much wouldn't irritate them so much if they learn to employ empathy as well. So we must learn to practice empathy and active listening in order to strengthen those relationships. And so there are some frameworks in which we can do to help build out all 5 of these. There are some things we can do that we can help build out active optimism. We can help build out decisive decision making or taking decisive action. That we can help to groom our moral compass to point more north in terms of obeying the word of God. And then number 4, there are things we can do to help build up our tenacity while at the same time giving us the wisdom to know when to pivot. And then number 5, how we can work on these interpersonal support systems so that we can have relationships that are deep and meaningful. So let's talk about active optimism. What are some practical exercises you can do? Visualization is a powerful one. Visualization is something that I tell people they should do. It's not just some new age thing. God has given us a body. He's given us a spirit, and he's given us a soul. As a human being, we are a tripartite being. And part of that being is our soul, which constitutes our mind, our will, our emotions, our imagination, and our intellect. And we should be using the part of our soul that allows us to imagine or visualize so that we can see the very thing we desire to become or to do or to accomplish. Because remember, if I can see it, then that active optimism pushes me to take actionable steps. Those actionable steps that I take actually lead me down the path to being able to manifest and see the tangible result of what it is that I was able to visualize. So you ought to spend a few minutes each and every day visualizing yourself overcoming some current challenge that you're facing. And you should see yourself overcoming that challenge with a positive outcome. And you should get that picture ingratiated in your mind so that anytime something negative shows up, all you can see is yourself in the positive light, overcoming that situation. And sometimes the way you do that is every time you have a small win, write it down. Get you what I call a gratitude journal. on your computer. If you like to write it down. If you like to speak it into your phone on your notes. But remind yourself of those small victories. Don't wait until the whole war is won. Celebrate every single battle. Now, if you're going to practice some decisive action, here are some things you can do. Challenge yourself to make small daily decisions and challenge yourself to do it quickly. Things that don't really matter, like what am I going to wear today? Don't spend 30 minutes trying to decide what you're going to wear. Go into your closet, narrow it down to 3 things. Once you got the 3, give yourself 60 seconds, pick one and go with it. Practice making those decisions. Practice mental agility. Practice not getting paralysis through analysis. Resilient people don't get stuck. They learn to move forward, and they learn to move forward quickly. Do the same thing when it comes to choosing a meal or whatever workout routine you're going to do. Learn to build your decisiveness muscle. Where are we going to eat? I don't know. People take 45 minutes to an hour deciding where to eat. Practice making a decision quickly. Why? Because when you learn to make decisions about the mundane, you strengthen that decisiveness muscle. So when major things happen, you're ready to make a decision quickly. You might not have all the information, but you can make the decision based on the best information that you have at the time. And if you have mental agility and you have to modify and adjust later, you can do that. So practice that decisive decision making. How do you do that in a professional setting? You can do it by taking initiatives on your job, signing up for certain projects, hosting meetings, proposing solutions to your company's problem. It's easy to do in the professional setting. In the personal setting, you can do that by doing the things that we just talked about, planning and executing on personal projects. You say you want to clean out that garage or clean out that closet, make the decision you're going to do it on Saturday. On Saturday from 8 to 12, that's what I'm going to work on. I'm going to do it. Make the decision you're going to do it, write it down, and then say you're going to do it. And then on Saturday, don't let anything get in your way and do it. But practice that decisive decision making. And number 3, about your moral compass. So there's some practical exercises to strengthen that muscle. Remember, we talked about resiliency being a muscle. So how do I practice strengthening this muscle of moral compass? Take some time and write down your 5 most important personal values. Think about it. What are your 5 most important personal values? And then how do they guide your decisions? And if you write down your 5 personal values and you are able to ascertain that a lot of your decisions have nothing to do with your personal values, you got to reevaluate one or the other. Either those really aren't your personal values that you hold deeply because they're not the ones that you practice, or they are the ones that you hold deeply, but you are so out of alignment. You are so out of integrity with your decisions that you need to begin to line those decisions up with your 5 personal values. You can do things by checking your decision making. You can have an accountability partner, having someone to hold you accountable to the things that you say are important to you. Align your lifestyle and your choices with your values, such as making ethical purchases. If you say that you value saving money, but you find out that you're spending money every month at the mall or on entertainment, and when you should be saving it, and every month you say you're going to do better and you don't, then you need an accountability partner. You need a system in place that will help you have the actions that line up with your moral compass. And then this idea of relentless tenacity. Okay. I tell people all the time, journaling is so important. Keep a journal of the challenges that you face. And then also keep a journal of your responses to them. And it didn't have to be fancy. Get you a piece of paper. I have literally a black and white compass notebook that I have with me that has various things in it. But near the back of that book, one of the things it has is a piece of paper, and I created what I call a T-chart. It's just a line across the top with a line down the middle of the page, okay? On the left-hand side, I have at the top of it, it says challenges. On the right-hand side of it, it says my response. And whenever I have a particular challenge that I'm facing, I write it down. And then I write down what my response to it was when I did it. And sometimes I don't have the piece of paper with me. So I may have a challenge and I may respond. And then when I get to write it down, I'm like, oh man, that wasn't the right response to have to that particular challenge. I didn't do that well. Well, by writing it down, it helps me to develop this relentlessness that I need in order not to give up, because I can learn from it and I can do better the next time. Okay. And then the other thing you want to do is set some long-term goals and then track your persistence over time. How persistent are you? How persistent are you? Do you give up after 30 days? What about 90 days? Have you ever had a project that took you 120 days and you stuck with it? You know, I've had a lot of people reach out to me about what I did in order to go from 267 pounds down to 179 pounds in 7 months. They're like, what did you do? And I tell them, I got relentless. I got relentless about what I ate. I got relentless about my intermediate fasting. That I fasted. I had a 6-hour window from 12 to 6 p.m. that I ate 5 days a week. And then 2 days a week, I fasted for 24 hours a day. I made sure that my exercise was such that on any given day, I was negative in my calorie intake. And they said, oh my God, I don't know if I could do that. You can if you decide you want to. And so you have to be tenacious in order to reach any goal. My wife said this the other day. We were in Florida on vacation. And she said, do you know that there is nobody who is not extreme who reaches, only extreme people reach their goals. Anybody who's not extreme, they don't reach their goals. It takes some amount of tenaciousness, some amount of extremity to say, you know what, I'm going to go through and do this no matter what. I'm not going to give in. I'm not going to cave in, and I'm not going to quit. And then lastly, this idea of interpersonal support. Interpersonal support, learn how to be a good friend. Learn how to engage in conversations that are about other people and where you aren't the center of attention. Learn how to focus on things and understand things that are of interest to other people, not just of interest to you. And then learn how to listen sometimes to people without having to always plan a response. Practice active listening. One of the things that I talk about all the time is how do I integrate this into my daily life? And the things I tell people who I work with, who are clients of mine, I tell them that they have to truly learn to integrate these resiliency factors into their life. And the only way to do that is to practice them. People say, how can I get better at tennis? Practice. How can I get better at being a father? Practice. How can I get better at preaching? Practice. How can I get better at being a friend? Practice. So if you want to get better at being a more resilient person, guess what you have to do? You have to practice. You have to reflect regularly on your progress. And then you have to be willing to adjust your strategies as needed. And you need to allow someone to hold you accountable. Remember, resilience is a dynamic skill, which means it can be learned over time. And if it can be learned, say it with me, it can be mastered. It's a dynamic skill that grows and evolves with you. As you grow and evolve, your level of resiliency grows and evolves. Resilience is necessary in our life if we're going to be successful. Because what resilience does is it does these three things. Resilience is sequential. What do I mean by that? The journey to resiliency involves progressing through these identifiable stages we just talked about. From recognizing and cultivating an active optimism to leveraging interpersonal support, you have to go through those stages. You have to employ active optimism. You have to practice making decisions quickly. Your moral compass should always be your guide, and you got to learn to hang on with the grip of a pit bull. And then you also need to understand the importance of building those relationships. Why? Because relationship is sequential. Number two, resiliency is learnable. It's a skill. Through intentional practice and reflection, we can develop each of these resiliency factors in our lives. This adaptability underscores the dynamic nature of resilience as a skill that evolves in response to our experience and efforts. We got to practice. We got to practice. You don't get a boxer doesn't learn how to box well without ever getting hit. Part of getting hit teaches them how to dodge better, how to duck better, how to position themselves better. The same is true for resiliency. The Bible tells us that in this world we will have troubles. Now, of course, Jesus says, but don't let the trouble burden you down. He says, know that I've already overcome the world. And if you're in me, you've overcome it too. But he didn't say we would never get hit. So we got to learn that resiliency is sequential and that it's learnable. And then number 3, that resiliency has a major impact on our success. It has a major impact on our success. I'm going to leave you with this parting thought. The journey of building resilience is uniquely personal, yet universally relevant. The journey that all of us must take in order to build resiliency, it is uniquely personal. The way you do it is going to be a little different than the way I do it. The sequential steps will be the same. Those will be the same. We're both going to have active optimism. We're both going to have to learn to make decisions quickly and efficiently. We both better have the right moral compass that guides us along this journey, especially when life happens. We better both learn how to hang on there and how to not give in and cave in and quit so easily. And we both better make sure that we are building deep, supportive relationships. We all got to do that. But the uniqueness to how we do it is going to be very personal. Yet the idea that we need it is universally relevant. And so here's what I'd like for you to do as we end our Building Better series. I want you to think about, and I want to encourage you to think about what are the things you are doing now that can help build your resiliency so that when life happens, when things don't go your way, when your best laid plans don't get laid out perfectly in life, what are you going to do? Are you going to blame God? You're going to blame your spouse? You're going to blame your boss? You're going to blame your friends? You're going to blame your family members? You're going to blame yourself? Or are you going to be willing to learn? Are you going to be willing to do what our definition says, which is to be able to withstand adversity and to bounce back from those difficult life events? Are you going to be a person who's going to now spend time becoming self-aware and self-regulating? Are you going to be an optimist? Are you going to develop that mental agility and now begin to understand the value of relationships? Are you going to do those things, or are you going to choose to just have a pity party when life lives? Because life is going to life. And for all of you, I pray and I hope that you will build up better resiliency. Just like I want you to build up better focus, and I want you to build up better habits, and I want you to build up better swagger. Listen, I'm your host, Pastor Strick. This is Ed Talk. This is season number 3, episode 4. And this is all about building better resiliency and how you can develop the resiliency that you need in order to succeed. Again, I'm going to ask you to go to www.pastorstrick.com. I'm going to ask you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Help me get to 300 subscribers. Help me get to my next milestone, which is 300 podcast subscribers. And then those of you who love to engage with the podcast on various platforms, again, you can always go to www.pastorstrick.com. And that will take you to a landing page where you can choose the podcast platform of your choice. Again, this has been Ed Talk. I'm glad to see you, and I'll be back next Tuesday with a brand new series. I hope to see you there. Have a great day.